Welcome back, Wellness Warriors, to the Entheos and Explorer channel. I'm Caitlin Thompson. Now, for those of you that don't know already, I am a psychedelic enthusiast and advocate. And I recently did something kind of crazy, even for me. And I decided to basically do like a dieta sort of thing with psilocybin mushrooms. So for 5 days in a row, I took psilocybin mushrooms every single day and was basically high on mushrooms for 5 days straight, most of the day, all day, every day for 5 days. So why did I do this? Well, I guess you'll have to watch this video to find out. In this video, I'm going to share with you what my experience was like and share with you why I decided to do this. But to give you some background first, even though I am a strong advocate of the legalization, decriminalization, and medicalization of psychedelic drugs, I've never been a huge fan of actually consuming psilocybin mushrooms. I love growing them, I appreciate how interesting they are, but I don't actually like eating them. I tend to be just really uncomfortable the entire time, and pretty much as soon as I take them, I'm just waiting for them to be over. Not because I'm psychologically distressed or having a bad trip or anything like that. It's more just I find them to be uncomfortable. The feeling is uncomfortable, and I always feel on edge and anxious and just like paranoid and not really like pleasant. That being said, of course, they can be useful for processing things, but I find that I can process things with other substances where I'm just generally having a better time. It's pretty uncommon for me to take mushrooms in general. So you may ask, how did I end up deciding to be high on mushrooms for 5 days? Well, the truth is I kind of didn't plan it, and I don't know, it just sort of ended up happening organically. But here's the story. So how this came to be, I went to a party here in Bali, and a friend there was selling these little mushroom tea bottles that they had made. And so I decided to buy some because, you don't have the whole gamut of available substances when you live in another country. So you kind of just accept what is available. So I bought this tea, and I drank just a little bit of it, maybe like a quarter of the bottle, and, just got like mildly high, like a museum dose. And then I was like, oh yeah, I don't like doing mushrooms at parties. They don't like make the party better for me. And I felt like antisocial and like lazy and tired and uncomfortable, and I was like, this isn't actually fun. So I did not drink anymore at that point. I decided to just like basically be on this miniature dose, and then once they wore off, I was feeling much happier. So I ended up saving the rest of the bottle, the tea. And me being kind of a cheapskate, or frugal as some would say, so I knew I had like a week left to consume the rest of the tea that I had purchased, and I didn't want it to go to waste, and I didn't want to waste my money. So I put it in the fridge, and I'm like, crap, like I gotta drink this mushroom tea. Like I don't want it to go to waste, but I don't really want to be on mushrooms. So I'm like, oh, I have an idea. Why don't I microdose with it? I'll try microdosing with it. As most of you know, one of the common incidences that happens with microdosing is accidental macrodosing. And turns out I had become sort of more sensitive to mushrooms than I previously have been, or perhaps it was just a strong batch or something. But, it was like, oh, I better microdose this mushroom tea so that it doesn't go to waste. And I ended up drinking more than a microdose and was like mildly high. So this was really more of like a museum dose, as they say, which is like a low dose. You can function and like, you still kind of are grounded, but you're definitely high. It's definitely more than a microdose. So I took my museum dose thinking I was taking a microdose, and then got like unexpectedly very high, but then continued to do mundane activities like work on the computer and write articles and go to the gym and cook food and clean my room and ride the motorcycle and like just normal things. And I was actually astonished at how productive I was while being like high on mushrooms. I found that I was able to sit down and write like an article about bacteriophages with really amazing focus that I normally don't have. And I was definitely high. Like I had visuals and stuff with like looking at my keyboard, like things were melty, things were fuzzy. But what I realized was that I actually did kind of like mushrooms. I just liked them in a certain context. And I found them actually way more enjoyable when I didn't have to interact with anybody and there was a direct task that I needed to focus on. So what I learned was that it's when I'm just, sitting there in a social setting or with nothing to do that I don't like the uncomfortable feeling of the mushrooms. But in this case, the uncomfortable feeling was actually kind of like motivating me to pursue writing this article or getting this spreadsheet finished and filled out, and like really boring stuff that normally I would think was awful. I was somehow able to highly motivated to focus on it for hours and hours and hours while on the mushrooms. So that was kind of like my first day I had that experience, and I'm like, whoa, that's interesting. And then I thought, well, oh my God, I have so much more of this tea I gotta drink. Maybe I'll just take some more. So then I took more, but it seemed to have like an additive effect, and then I would get more high. And then the next day came and I was like, I still have so much of this darn mushroom tea to get through. So I decided to like take some again. And then I went clothes shopping and rode my motorbike around and ran errands. I was definitely, again, I was high, but not like inebriated. And it was like fascinating, like just moving through these mundane activities while kind of high on mushrooms. It was like really kind of fun. I could tell when I was trying on the clothes that I was feeling it, because I was having a lot of trouble figuring out how to put this certain dress on that I was trying to see if I wanted to buy. And it took me like 10 minutes and I finally had to ask for help to put the stupid thing on. It was like kind of complex, but I definitely felt a little disoriented in that sense. But as far as riding my motorbike, I felt like I was driving really well. I was in kind of like a flow state. I felt vigilant, like hyper aware of everything and driving safely. But also very relaxed and like almost like I was like, it was like I was doing a dance with my motorbike, and that was really, really a cool experience. I also train horses here. I have some horses that I'm training here in Bali, and, I think day 3, I took more of the mushroom tea because I thought, oh my God, I got to get through this mushroom tea or else I'm going to waste my $20 that I spent, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But, I drove my motorbike and trained the horses and rode a horse, and then worked with the baby horse that I'm training on the ground. And I felt so deeply synchronized with them, like in tune and just hypersensitive of my own body, my communication, my body language, my energetic sort of exchange with the horse. And, both horses were just like excellent and listening to me really well. And it just felt like we were really dialed into each other. So that was a really cool experience too. So there was a variety of things that like I never would have thought, like these very normal activities ended up being really cool to experience on these mild doses of mushrooms. So basically I continued this process for 5 days straight, where I was basically just trying to get through the rest of the darn mushroom tea without letting it go to waste, and drinking a little bit every day. And then I would usually drink like maybe 2 to 3 doses per day. So I'd kind of be sustainedly high for like hours and hours. Like most of the day I was like kind of loosey-goosey under the influence of these mushrooms. Yeah, it was a really interesting experience. And when the 5 days ended and I finally made it through my freaking mushroom tea, I felt like really quite light. I felt really happy. I felt really aligned. I felt really clear. And I had gotten a ton of work done, and I had done a ton of cool activities and felt really good. And I thought, that was kind of cool. I should do that again sometime. Like, I should take like a museum dose and just function, like do normal activities, and don't do them with anyone else necessarily. You don't have to talk to anyone else. You don't have to interact. You don't have to be social. Just do whatever you got to get done, and, add a little sparkle to it. So really, at the end of the day, this whole experience happened because I was cheap. I'm a cheapskate. That's pretty much what it all came down to, is I just didn't want to waste the mushroom tea, and I didn't want to drink it at the party because it wasn't fun. So that's what prompted all of this, was just me not wanting to waste this mushroom tea. But it was a really cool experience, and I found it surprisingly easy to function on this moderate dose of mushrooms, and it was really cool. And I feel like it helped rehabilitate my relationship to mushrooms a little bit. It makes me trust them more. It feels like we went on like a fun trip together, a fun couple of dates. And now I'm like more interested in engaging with that spirit. And now I know the sort of context that feels the best to actually take mushrooms in. And maybe is not like the ceremonial setting or even the party. Like, maybe it's actually just doing normal shit and creating a spiritual experience out of that. So that's my story. I don't know if that's even interesting to you guys or not, but it was interesting to me, and I thought I'd make a video about it because it was fun. So yeah. Anyways, if you dug this, be sure to comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Am I crazy or am I brilliant? I don't know. I ask myself this all the time. And if you're not subscribed already, be sure to subscribe. Not all my videos are like this. A lot of times they're more informative, where I talk about different supplements, modalities, and healing methods to empower you to take your mental health and wellness into your own hands and be proactive so that you can feel awesome. So subscribe so that you don't miss any of my weekly released videos. And yeah, let me know what you thought of this video. Love you guys. Smile on my warriors. I'll catch you next time. Mwah!